Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central. Happy New Month to you and welcome to another fine month to look at and x-ray latest topical issues emanating from the exciting world of sports. Well, returning off the back of the weekend was filled with numerous sporting stories from the world of tennis to athletics scene to the world of basketball and even football. We'll take a look at a lot of that, particularly the world of tennis had a whole lot of emerging, champions across different WTA and ATP competition that happened over the course of the weekend. The race for who wins the English Premier League still continued, and we'll explain what happened in the London Derby clash involving Chelsea and Arsenal. We'll also look at the Nigeria Premier Football League. Some changes were actually seen in the MPFL table after some top teams dropped points over the course of the weekend. I am Mutabe David, and I'm super delighted to return on the show this fine morning. But before we look at stories extensively, let's first of all bring you up to speed with big development making rounds in the exciting world of sports. Welcome to the show. Well, we begin the conversation from the athletics scene, where Nigerian student athletes produced a remarkable medal haul across the United States over the weekend, claiming 32 podium finish at the 2026 NCAA Indoor Conference Championships in what has been described as one of the most successful outings in recent memory. With the indoor conference season reaching its climax across the so-called Power Four leagues, the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC, alongside several other divisions, Nigerian athletes were central to the medal rush, delivering record-breaking performances and championship titles across multiple events. The standout display came in the SCE, where Samuel Ogassi of Alabama rewrote the history books in the men's 400-meter. The 19-year-old stormed the gold in 44.72 seconds, setting a new African record, a Nigerian national record in the process. His time eclipsed the previous continental mark of 44.74 seconds set last year by Ezekiel Nathaniel, while also securing the conference title in emphatic fashion. Ella Onuwewowo of LSU also won SEE gold, winning the women's 400-meter in a personal best of 50.96 seconds. Her run made her the second fastest African woman in history indoors over the distance and only the second to break the 51-second barrier. Kayinsola Ajayi of Auburn added to the historic tone of the championships in the men's 60-meter, clocking 6.45 seconds to win gold. The time established a new Nigerian national record, breaking Deji Aliu's long-standing 6.48 seconds mark set in 1999 and equaled the NCAA all-time record previously set by Christian Coleman. The unprecedented medal tally underscores Nigeria's growing influence in collegiate athletics and raises expectations ahead of the NCAA national finals. Away from that to the world of tennis, where Daniil Medvedev claimed the title at the Dubai Tennis Championships on Saturday after Thailand Greek sport withdrew ahead of their final due to a left hamstring injury. A Greek sport sustained the injury during his semi-final victory over Andrei Rublev on Friday. The Dutchman landed awkwardly after a serve, and although he went on to complete a straight set win, he was unable to recover in time for the championship match, resulting in a walkover. The title is Medvedev's 23rd tour-level crown and second of the 2026 season after winning in Brisbane in January. It is also the first time the 30-year-old has won the same event twice, having previously triumphed in Dubai in 2023. Away from that, 3 years ago, American Patron Stearns picked up her first WTA Tour main draw win at the ATX Open, her adopted hometown tournament, after a fruitful college tennis career at the nearby University of Texas, and reached the quarterfinals. Since then, Stearns maintained it would be nice if a Longhorn could take the tournament's trophy. The 2022 NCAA champion met good on that promise on Sunday with a 7-6-7-5 win over fellow American Talon Townsend. A gritty 2-hour and 22 minutes win that earned her a second tour level singles title. Stearns, currently ranked number 53, came into the tournament having lost in the first round in each of the last 2 years, and when she lost the opening set of her first match of the week against Francisca Jones, an unlucky hat-trick seemed a realistic possibility. But she rallied for that win and won 2 more 3-setters in the 3 subsequent rounds to advance to her first tour-level singles final in nearly 2 full years, and first on hard courts. Stearns last reached the final on tour in May 2024, when she won the clay court WTA 250 in Rabat, Morocco. To the world of basketball, where Knicks coach Mike Brown couldn't pinpoint whether Sunday was the team's best defensive performance of the season, but it certainly felt like it. Not only did the Knicks snap the Spurs' 11-game winning streak in a rematch of the NBA Cup final from Las Vegas, but they held San Antonio to a season-low output in a 114-89 point win. Except for the first few minutes when the Spurs took a 12-point lead, the Knicks were dominant throughout their latest strong performance over the past week or so. Brown admitted the defense was high level. Victor Wembanyama had 42 points and 18 rebounds in his first visit to Madison Square Garden last Christmas Day, but was held to 25 points and 13 rebounds on Sunday. He committed 7 of the Spurs' 22 turnovers. And now to the world of football, where Arsenal passed the major test of their Premier League title credentials after Julian Timber and William Saliba both scored from corners in a 2-1 win over 10-man Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. A week after they thumped Tottenham Hotspurs, Arsenal recorded another pivotal triumph to restore their 5-point advantage over Manchester City, who have 1 game in hand. Saliba sent the host on their way midway through the first half when he converted Bukayo Saka's corner, only for Arsenal Piero Incapié to put 1 in his own net in first half stoppage time. Chelsea's equalizer, which also arrived from a corner, rocked the Gunners, but they were back ahead after 66 minutes when Timber headed home Declan Rice in swinger. Pedro Neto received a yellow card for complaining about Timber's goal and then landed a second booking just minutes later after he sent down Gabriel Martinelli. It resulted in Chelsea's 7th red card in the league this season and their 2nd in as many matches. Arsenal might have been expected to cruise to the full-time whistle, but David Raya produced a brilliant diving save from Alejandro Garnacho's calling effort, and Liam Delap had an effort chalked off for offside, both in second half stoppage time, as the Gunners took a significant stride to capturing their first title in 22 years. With just 9 games to go, Arsenal will play only 1 fixture against side currently in the top 6 next month, mouth-watering trip to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And that's all we have for you on Sports Wrap-Up. We'll take a very short break. That when we return, the guys who will join the conversation and extensively we'll have a whole lot to talk about in the world of sports. Do stay with us.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time. We talk about the best of stories and analysis in the world of sports at the Sports Central. And my name is Vladimir Kim. Exciting times ahead. One of the key conversations this morning was centered around football stories, and the trigger of the football story would be Arsenal Football Club. Well, it seemed to be a neck-bite battle between Arsenal and Manchester City. Emmanuel says 5 points, but if City gets to win an outstanding game, it would be 2 points between the two. Two key games many had anticipated could be difficult for Arsenal after the faltered their lines against Brentford and Wolverhampton Wanderers at the time. It was Tottenham against Chelsea. Tottenham and Chelsea rather, but Arsenal Football Club has beaten Chelsea Football Club and Tottenham in quick succession. And the conversation is they're now known as Set Piece FC after scoring 2 goals from set piece against Chelsea. Is that conversation? Well, look, a tidbit what it has to do with the world of tennis from a Nigerian point of view. Athletics also. We'll talk about basketball and the Nigerian Premier Football League. I'm not alone in the house. Some key important personalities are here with me. Typical guys, no names in that format. Utube David Fonitina. Utube David, good morning. Another week is here to talk sports. Good morning. So good to have you be part of the show.
Well, an excellent morning to return. I think I'm returning with mixed feeling. First of all, I'm looking at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I think this will be the World Cup that has so many questions amid security concerns about co-host Mexico. We hear, of course, that particular country, the security, concerns rather is so, high. And at the moment, we do not know whether or not FIFA, over the course of the weekend, stated that the Mexican city will still host some World Cup matches. Just yesterday, we heard that the US and Israel are attacking Iran as a nation. They've actually, of course, attacked them for about 2 days now. And Iran's participation in the 2026 World Cup is also in doubt because we have several casualties who've died already. So I do not know what to expect in this coming up World Cup.
Well, I mean, expectations, especially when delve into politics in that regard. Fonitina, good morning.
I'm excited to be here, Blyden. Fresh month, fresh perspective to look at in the world of sport. We'll be talking about Nigerians doing so well at the collegiate system in America, and I think it brings back that question what we talked about last month. Just to conclude that, Niger Delta Games, where we're talking about our athletes after doing so well at the Niger Delta Games. What's next now for them? Because when you look at Senna climbs now, where we have athletes start from the younger system. Go through the collegiate system before they become full-fledged athletes. But in Nigeria, we don't have that. After that Niger Delta Games, bulk of those kids have already returned to school. Bulk of them are in school as we speak. So when you look at how help their progression, that's the biggest question now.
Well, big question, no matter how we talk about it, talking about the collegiate system, and maybe from a Nigerian point of view, when you talk about these games and the youth games, and that's also a system from a Nigerian point of view, because you're talking about Niger Delta Games and youngsters from the school setup participating. Maybe something to be positive about and funny to that. But let's go straight into it. Athletics first, where you talk about Nigerian athletes dominating NCAA Indoor Conference with 32 medals. Well, to start with you, in a long while we've not seen this level of performance, especially young Nigerians in the US performing so well and showing class and dominance. We get to ask the question, it's basically what it is. We're talking about the numbers standing out so highly for these youngsters. I don't know what you make of it. Many people have looked at the positive that's come from this one and the interest from the youngsters.
Well, I think it's quite good for Nigerian athletes, and it shows the future is, already looking very bright, especially for these athletes that are from Nigerian contingents. It's quite good when you actually have them, go ahead and break lots of records around their colleges. Just recently, we had one of them even broke Nathaniel Ezeka's record when he was in the college as well. So it shows some level of progress and confidence, meted out by the Nigerian athletes. And it's also showing that we're also, progressing in terms of confidence for these particular athletes. One would actually look at the future and say, yeah, it looks like Nigerian, athletes and of course participants in the upcoming international tournaments, make it in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, is actually bright. But I think just like Ford mentioned, our concerns would always be about how to, of course, get hold of these athletes and make them represent the nation, because now that they're actually running for their respective colleges, many would also look at the very fact that they're from Nigeria, so we always call them the Nigerian internationals. But what happened when we have major, international athletics competition?
And some of them are drafted to feature for the United States of America and other European countries.
We're talking about one athlete who actually switched, allegiance to represent another nation, a European nation, as a matter of fact. So it is always about trying to find those conditions that are right for these athletes to represent the country. Otherwise, we may just see them doing quite well at the college system. And then when it has to do with professional careers, they get to represent other countries. But I think Nigeria are actually doing quite well at the moment. And it's just about trying to harness them at this point when they're in different colleges.
Well, a big concern from in that regard, what happens next, especially today, get to really improve at the end of it, contribute to that country, Nigeria, or get to switch gear and participate in other countries and perform quite well. A standard display came in the SEC, where Samuel Agazi of Alabama rewrote the history books in the men's 400 meters. On funny time, we've talked about it. It's Samuel Agazi of Alabama, not Samuel Agazi of Abuja, Samuel Agazi of Nigeria. So we've already talked about it. Did so well in 400 meters. 19-year-old Storm gold in 44.72 seconds, setting a new African record and Nigerian record. So what it has to be with the record is African and Nigerian record. We're representing Alabama in this one now. Wow. So it brings a question, probably, yeah, that way he's schooling, so we can understand that. Yeah. What next for this side? Are we going to see anytime soon where you expect that the bulk of athletes have gone to maybe the United States at age grade level, perform quite well, return to perform for Nigeria? Or is it a thing of concern to really look at from a Nigerian point of view? What needs to be done back home? Do we also, maybe the other argument would be upgrade your systems also, so you have a lot of superstars, chunk out youngsters become superstars from home?
Oh, I think you've said it all. You've said it all indirectly. All we have to do is just set up collegiate systems.
I've not said it all. I want to hear your thoughts.
we have universities in Nigeria. We have tertiary institutions in Nigeria. But look at those tertiary institutions. Look at the sporting part of it. What happens? We have directors of sport in all these different universities. They've made it look like political posts now. You campaign to become director of sport in a particular university. I'm an alumni of University of Uyo. Remember when we were there, we had a lot of people campaigning to become the director of sports. After getting there, what happens? They don't even have access to some of these funds, these student union government funds. I have a friend who's in Pretoria right now, South Africa. He's been drafted into their team. So when you look at their football team, so when you look at it that way, it's on scholarship, and that scholarship comes from the part of football. I think South Africa have embodied what we see in Western countries now, because when you look at it, they give their athletes, we're talking about now scholarships to go through the system, an athlete is going to school, doesn't have to worry about paying school fees. But we in Nigeria, bulk of, you see a kid who's so talented, but he has to worry about paying school fees, he has to worry about what's going to eat next, he has to worry about a lot of things. So I think all we have to do is give athletes scholarship. That's just it. Athletes should be on scholarship. It happens everywhere in the world. Go to the United Kingdom, that's how it works. Go to the United States of America, that's how it works. So the biggest, thing that the Sports Commission, every sports administrator involved in Nigeria can do for Nigerian athletes is give these athletes scholarships so they don't have to worry about any other thing.
Well, good perspective there from Funitina. We have to create that system, and where there are scholarships for athletes-based scholarship. So if you've seen like a big potential, then you already understand it's a drive for you to become a superstar athlete and not worry about where to get money, pay fees and all of that, and probably draft it into more competition, and that allows giving to these athletes. Seems looking at the world of athletics, 18-year-old Jessica Orje also threw 18.5 meters to win the women's shot put at the Ivy Lake. We're talking about the heptagonal championship, setting a new Nigerian African record in that regard. She surpasses the 18.48 meter mark set a day earlier by Manda Clark, which had broken the long-standing record of Vivian Chukwu Emeka. This is absolutely fantastic, what we've talked about moving forward. And similarly, we hear there are reports that Abuja is to host over 3,000 athletes for a 10th National Para Games. Many perspectives within that context, Mr. David. Let's talk about Abuja now. 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, and competing in 15 sports in what organizers describe as celebration of resilience, excellence and inclusion. I'll start with you on this one. We've looked at how young Nigerians are performing, and the states, the Federal Capital Territory, they're hosting 3,000 athletes in a para level. It seems like something every now and then is happening. We're just moving from the Niger Delta Games, and very soon we'll be talking about preparation for the Commonwealth Games. And while we're looking at the future of athletes, more competition also seems to be securing that.
I think it's quite good. This particular event, is usually organized annually, and if you also look at the para athletes in the country, they've actually done well, outstandingly well in the last couple of years as regards to what we've seen from other athletics federation. And I think for this particular competition. It's just basically about trying to have more quality numbers that will represent the country both on the continental stage or even international para athletics tournament. And I think it's quite good now for this particular athletes, more exposure for them, more quality opponents to also face, despite the conditions we're talking about at the moment. I think it's about quality, and I think the para games would also try to add up the numbers to what we've seen in recent times. And I think the Para Athletics Federation do not really have problems, because they have really been outstanding in recent continental and even international games, winning medals, of course, for Team Nigeria. Well,
the big question then for Nitina would be, how are the para doing it? Which what David is saying, they've been absolutely outstanding, maybe comparatively in Africa and the rest of the world. And you wouldn't want to say that the bulk of the superstars are coming from Europe to represent the para level. A big question would be now, what are they doing differently, like the regular athletes within the context of Nigerian Athletics Federation are not doing? They're still under the same federation.
Well, I would tell you this for sure. They're not doing anything different. It's just that other nations are not really taking the para sports really seriously. That's what Nigeria is still doing well. Once other nations start really paying attention to their para sports,
and put the right structure.
That's it. I'm just telling you the truth.
That's why from a women's game, we're beginning to have some shavers.
Exactly.
That's why them winning the last tournament, and because other nations are taking women's football seriously. Well, good perspective there from Foritina. Well, sometimes I do not like when it sounds like bad news, and it becomes good perspective for me, because it's absolute bad news from that angle. What could happen to Nigeria and moving forward in the para sports, especially if other nations are paying lots of attention to that para team. I'll quickly go to the world of tennis then. Quickly, Dani Medvedev has been awarded Dubai title after a graceful injury withdrawal, and we're talking about the game where Medvedev, has won a whooping 23rd ATP singles title at Dubai Championship, and when Talon Graceful withdrew from the final, injured on Saturday. Dani Medvedev, it seemed like finally we can talk positive about Medvedev. In the long run, it's been that of struggle for Dani Medvedev, but a withdrawal from Graceful helping him to become champion.
But quite good for Dani Medvedev, 2 titles already in 2026. And then we're also talking about...
The way he said, quite good, on top.
Good, yeah, because we're talking about 3 months already in the year and 2 titles. It's good for him. Disappointment for Talon Grigspor, because when I first saw that he won the competition, I had to go check, of course, what exactly happened. And I discovered that he didn't even play against Talon Grigspor. Talon Grigspor had to withdraw. It's good because, over time we've talked about Dani Medvedev not being able to, win a single competition twice in his career. But now he's done it through winning the Dubai Championship without playing any finals.
So the finalists had to withdraw for him to do
it.
For the first time. What a story for Dani Medvedev now. It seemed like somehow nature supported Dani Medvedev in this one, because we know the story. When he wins the title, he can't defend it. The next time he has to be beaten, even if he gets to the final. But this one, he got to the final, and the gods of tennis said, this one you must have it. A Grigspor withdrawing.
I think it's very disappointing for Talon Grigspor, because
what about you? Disappointing for you?
Maybe if you played this final, I would have lost.
I would have actually loved to see a real match at the finals. I think maybe the organizers of the competition have let Andriy Rublev go through. Yes, he lost, but at the end of it, the man pulled out. Talon Grigspor pulled out.
How do you let Rublev go through? Then you have to start changing the laws all through whenever someone withdraws at another level.
I would have a law like that, because you cannot just win the final without contesting anything.
Well, he's won it. He's won it, and we've moved on anyway.
If the football team pulls out of a competition and no one has to replace it. It happens in football. You get it. So if someone pulls out, someone else has to replace it.
No, but
not in the match. I'm talking about in the competition.
Let's go to a typical football match in a final. Let's assume that final, what's it called? It's a walkover, and you give it a champion.
We're talking about
definitely. So it's the same thing in all sports anyway. Similarly, while we're talking about some decent champions at the Mexican Open, it had to be Kobali beating Francis Tiafoe at the Acapulco Crown. Exciting with Medvedev on 49. That's one. I'll stick with you on it. We've seen the likes of Kobali do quite well, but again, Francis Tiafoe, most often than not, when you look at this kind of competition, you begin to think like, in recent times, not seen the best of Tiafoe, but has gotten to the final in the Mexican tournament. At the ATX Open, Texas favorites 10 delivered in Austin, winning a second WTA title. Let's talk about the women then. At the Austin Open, we're talking about the likes of 10 showing class and dominance.
Well, she's done quite well for herself right from the start of this particular competition. She's had about 2 upset defeating top superstars, and now she's currently out of the top 20. We're not yet in the top 20 when it comes to women's ranking, but she's been doing well for herself. So I expect a progression from the Lady Peston stands, because she looks like someone who has a high ceiling. I'm expecting her to break that very soon. We're still in the first quarter of the year, so by the second quarter of the year, I expect something more handy from Peston stands.
Well, you got to see what happened for Sten moving forward. 14 has spoken about being within the context of the first quarter and moving forward. Many games to be played, but still, we're talking about the Merida Open as Bosca Adler is fresh to end first single title. We're talking about a title in Merida. Similarly, from a basketball point of view, as well, move into basketball and NBA proper. But first, from a Nigerian point of view, we're talking about Nigerian basketball crisis escalating as FIBA are set to rule on board tenure. Well, I don't know if you've been following what's really happened. Yeah. Every now and then we talk about every federation, and it seems a bit easy. But when it gets to basketball federation, it's always that of crisis. Gida has been around. It's been that conversation. It's supposed to have a second team, and many people are clamoring and say it shouldn't be there within the context of the law. What's really happening from a basketball point of view on the board?
It's been back and forth. If you could recall the year where the international body had to suspend Nigeria from all the holding major international engagement, it was still, I think, back and forth with power tussle. I do not understand why that particular federation can't just have rules meted out by them and of course try to honor the rules. It has been back and forth with some quarters saying, come on, you do not have the right to go for a second term. And at the moment they're still waiting for the international basketball federation to come tell them how many years and stipulate the guidelines as it has to do with presidential race and how many years a particular NBBF president can actually stay in office. So at the moment, Musa Akida is also one of them. The current president is still one of them, waiting for the international body to come and establish something for Nigeria. Otherwise, we'll still have these issues going back and forth. This quarter saying, no, you do not have the right to go for a second term. This other quarter say, come on, you have to go. So I think Biden would definitely have all of these settled.
Well, we'll get to see how that happens in the coming days. We'll really talk about it as Musa Akida met a press conference of some sort, talking about the breaches and attempt to extend the board's tenure beyond its stipulated constitutional term, and a dispute has piqued the Federation's leadership against key stakeholders and members of the Congress, and is saying the Basketball and Global Basketball Federation FIBA will have to step in. Last week in Abuja, 6 members who served on the current NBBF board publicly declared that a 4-year tenure of the board expired on January 31st, 2026, and the group led by Sam Amedu. And we're talking about this serve as president of FIBA Zone, Africa Zone 3, insisting that there is no provision within the NBBF's constitution for an automatic extension of tenures. We'll talk about details of this, and quickly let's talk about basketball proper. The remaining time we have about the next 2-3 minutes. Let's see what we can make out of it. Well, it has to do with the NBA, and well, we're talking about big superstar hitting 30 points as the Thunder get past the Mavericks 100 points against 87 points, just as the Celtics record 114-98 win over 76ers. The Lakers had to go past the Kings 128-104 to compete back-to-back weekend wins. Well, funny thing, I don't know which game stood out for you, but the Thunders are going past the Mavericks, and that is something to talk about. Shai Gilgeous making the difference, 30 points for him.
Oh, definitely. I think it's no longer a story. It's no longer news now when they thought they win the game, because when you look at them, they've been very consistent from last season all the way to winning the NBA championship. Now this season they've continued in the same light. They're building something special within that team. I look at that Thunder franchise, and I see a team who can dominate the NBA for 5 years straight if they can keep the core of that team intact, and also
that could be something surprising. 5 years stress of dominance. We gotta see. It depends on what you define dominance anyway.
That's if other franchises who don't do a good traded business.
Well, it also depends on what he means by dominance anyway. Being in the top three could be dominance, from his standpoint. Getting to the playoffs, not necessarily winning titles. Yeah, it could be something possible now for them. But the big question is, when a big trade deal gets to happen now and big superstars live aside, what do you do? Well, Troy David, the Clippers had to beat the Pelicans 137-117, ending a 3-game losing streak, as the Pistons also beat the Magic 6 for a 6th straight road victory.
Yeah.
One thing is to have victories even at home, but the other one is to do it away from home. 6 straight victories for the Pistons, absolutely massive.
I think it's quite good for the Detroit Pistons at the moment. So when you look at the NBA settings and you want to talk about big, franchise who are doing quite well, you wouldn't want to put the Detroit Pistons in there because you look at the quality of players they've got, those really standing out for the Pistons. But I think it's good for them, slowly building blocks of consistency, even when many are not noticing at the moment. And suddenly here where we are talking about 6 games, without losing, quite good for the confidence. But beating the Orlando Magic side, the many will also look at the Orlando Magic. Who's there?
That's not a big story anyway.
Maybe you could actually talk about Paulo Banchero, but pull out Paulo Banchero from the Orlando Magic. Who's left? Talk about the quality of players rather. So I think it's good for the Pistons. I just want to see them going on with this consistency. And also often you get to talk about low teams, winning 6 games at a stretch. Good for the Pistons.
Good for the Pistons, with David giving indication in that. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Hawks have scored 44 points in the first quarter on a rout of the Trailblazers, 135-101. Here, we're not Trailblazers that lose, we bless all the time. We'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, we'll be blazing, talking about football stories all around the world, the Nigerian Premier Football League, what's happening there, European football all the way, and in particular Real Madrid having to play a Monday night football. And in a long time, we've not seen that happen in La Liga. It's going to be a conversation when we're back from the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back here to Sports Central. My name is Vlad. Exciting times ahead. Well, lots of changes taking place. A quick substitution. Fondisina has been substituted, and I guess it draws a conversation the first time, but most likely might also be a regular being part of the show. Well, Toba David showed me for company going nowhere. And when you talk about a man, Kuswa, he's his name. But first, let's go to the introduction of the DJ. Not a DJ, now an MC in this regard. Kuswa, so good to have you be part of the show.
Definitely. Nice to be here.
All right. Nice to be here. You see the big words, the volume that's coming. Nice to be here. Nice to be here. We'll go straight to the thick of it. Toba David still with me anyway. Our first conversation will begin from the Nigerian Premier Football League. As football we go, Remo Stars in 7-game winless run, and Rivers United lost at Bielsa. Well, Toba David, maybe first, let's look at the result of the games that took place yesterday. Akwa United had, over the weekend rather, Akwa United beaten Wiki Tourist 1-0, Academy Warriors 2, Abia Warriors 0, Niger Tornadoes 0, Warri Wolves 0. That game took place yesterday. And Remo Stars 2, Katsina United 0, Enugu Rangers 2, Nasarawa United 0, Shooting Stars 2, Kano Pillars 1, and Bendel Insurance, we're talking about 4-0 victory over Ikorodu City, surprisingly from that angle. Behold the results of the games in the Nigerian Premier Football League, March day 28, as we saw. And Bielsa United 1, Rivers United 0, Ayimba 1, Kun Khalifat 1, and Barak FC against Plateau United will take place today. Which I'll start with you now. Well, we're talking about Remo Stars ending 7-game winners run, showing class and dominance. Rivers United also losing at Bayelsa United. But most interesting part for me would be a top side when we talk about this season. Ikorodu City being beaten 4-0. It wasn't 1-0, 4-0 by Bendel Insurance.
Quite an unfortunate result for Ikorodu City side, who were actually some point on top of the MPFL table. Many will also look at the very fact that the MPFL is quite competitive this season. This week you're actually winning, next week you're being thrashed, and the story just continues about the mentality that you have to return back after dropping points the previous weekend. That men are looking forward to, and I think Ikorodu City have actually got that mentality now to return back and bouncing back to winning ways in their next game. I think I'm more disappointed in of course, Rivers United, because at the point where they have been knocked out of CAF Champions League, as a matter of fact, they should be winning as many games as possible, trying to make up for that particular disappointing outing on the continent of Africa. But they lost to Bayelsa United over the weekend, and then at the moment they are no longer top of the MPFL table. Maybe the next match, because they still got about 3 outstanding matches to play, they can actually come back to winning ways. For Remo Stars, they have returned back to Ikene. Recall, the MPFL board actually banned them from using that particular stadium due to fans' encroachment on the pitch, and of course also harassing some match officials in one of the games. So now they're back and they've actually started winning. Can they actually escape relegation? It looks dicey at the moment. We're actually looking forward to see level of consistency Remo Stars will have, and then we will still start having that conversation of whether or not they will actually escape relegation.
Well, holistic analysis there with it has to do with MPFL. Meanwhile, Enugu Rangers still topping the league at the moment with 28 matches played, 47 points. Number 2, Rivers United, despite losing over the weekend, 46 points. Ikorodu City at number 3, ones that were talking the league at 45 points. It is for them. At the bottom of the table, it would be one that is interest us. Remo Stars, there are 18s in the lock. Well, we talk about those within the context of relegation battle. Kano Pillars at 17, but Akwa United 19th to the bottom. 20th position, bottom of the table, is Kun Khalifat. Well, we leave there and go to the NNL. It has to do with Akwa United beating First Bank 2-0 to extend lead at top of the NNL Conference B. Well, let's talk to Kuswa then. We've seen the performance of Akwa United this season in the Nigerian National League. They seem like a team destined for qualification for the next round. This Conference B, many would say, and we'll get to talk about the playoffs that get to happen. What do you make of a performance of Akwa United now moving forward?
Well, impressive performance, I must say, impressive performance. Look at this Akwa United side and how they're set up now. It looks like they're desperate to return to the Nigerian Professional Football League, and that's what you expect from a team as big as Akwa United. Yeah, very disappointing. They found themselves in the NNL, but at this point in time, desperate performance there. They've been winning matches back-to-back, and that goes to show you, though, the extent to which these boys, desire that return to the Nigerian Professional Football League. And this is something all Akwa United fans, and most especially fans from this side of the country, would be expecting from this Akwa United side. We want to see them back, and so far so good. They've been doing well. It has to be about consistency going forward now. They have to be as consistent as possible, get those wins, get those points, and hopefully we get to see them back as soon as possible.
Hopefully we get to see Akwa United as soon as possible at the Echelon of football in Nigeria. Talking about the Nigerian Premier Football League. Well, many games to play still on still. Switching gear, a man has made a promise. Sani Keita, a former silver medalist when it has to do with Under-20 World Cup. But we're talking about Sani Keita, and he said, and I quote, "I can confirm that I have applied for the Under-17 coaching job." Keita is silver medalist at both the 2005 FIFA Under-20 World Cup and the 2008 Beijing Olympics. It is time for me to share my expertise and develop our youth players within a positive high-performance environment. In the coming days, we got to talk about depending on what happens, but it's applied for the Under-17 job. Let's move quickly to Europe then. It would be Liverpool boosting UEFA Champions League hopes with a 5-2 win over West Ham at Anfield. Meanwhile, Teno Barry wins it late for Everton in dramatic encounter at Newcastle United. And we're talking about Anton Samayo scoring only goal as Manchester City caught the lead from Arsenal. Well, let's have a bite on this one. Anton Samayo, the Ghanaian. Many Ghanaians are saying he's better than many Nigerian footballers, but it's always going to be that banter between Ghana and Nigeria. Influence since changing camp and going to Manchester City. And City are closing the gap.
I think it's one of the few players who have really been unchanged since he joined from, Bournemouth under Pep Guardiola's tutelage. We've had Grant Cherky, starting games off the bench. We've actually had Phil Foden starting game off the bench. Bernardo Silva, almost all of them in that attacking lineup. But Antonio Semedo keeps his place every weekend, and that shows the level of quality he's bringing to that Manchester City side, turning that result for them. It was the difference, and I think what Pep Guardiola needed was just 3 points at the end of the game, and he was able to get that. Whether or not the results or the performance were impressive, Pep Guardiola just wants to, stand on authority and keep pounding more pressure on Arsenal to see whether or not they will succumb to that pressure. But I think at the moment it's quite good for the team's momentum. When you win games consistently, it has a different momentum, and the mentality of the boys also raises to a large extent. And I think it's quite good for City at the moment. They've still got one game in hand, so if they win it, then more pressure on Arsenal. More
pressure on Arsenal. And similarly, Manchester United, a team that's performed so well, they've been the best side this year. We're talking about bagging 19 points, and many people are asking a question. One sport journalist this morning, I saw it, asked a question, and the question is, are we sure it's Michael Carrick, or is Michael Carrick carrying the face of Alex Ferguson? Well, it's something to really talk about. 19.3 points, better than any team Manchester United have performed, Kuswa, this year alone. Many would say, if we look at the statistics, if Michael Carrick was in charge at the helms of affair from beginning, maybe we'll be talking about title contenders or probably being at the top of the table. But massive performance, Benjamin Sesko scoring, how many games now? 5 games, four goals for him. First start for him in this one. It's still scored, but a sad story for Crystal Palace. This fixture always favor Crystal Palace. Absolutely. But yesterday, a red card changed the narrative.
Most definitely, for Manchester United, I mean, the consistency has wowed a lot of us. This is not something we pretty much expect.
Now, when you say a lot of us, what do you mean?
Maybe he's one of the stakeholders.
Are you one of the stakeholders?
I'm pretty not a stakeholder in this one. But again,
where do you have your stake?
Well, I don't want to put that out just yet.
All right, we'll get to find out.
Definitely. But when you look at Michael Carrick and came in, into Manchester United, lots of expectations on his shoulders, and man has proved a massive point for this United side. This is the sort of games you'd expect United to win on a normal day. Quite sad under Amorim, we're not seeing this sort of wins. But yesterday against,
we're finding out another. We're not seeing that sort of win. We get it now.
Against Crystal Palace yesterday, great comeback. The spirit was there. The attack was there. I was quite surprised when I looked through the lineup and I didn't see a certain what's his name now, Amad Diallo on the bench. That was very surprising for me. Came in as a substitute in that particular game. But of course, that goes to show that this man has got something up his sleeves. And the big question now will be, will he return the job at the end of the season? Because definitely Manchester United is going to the Champions League.
Well, definitely, I love it. The man, we know his tech now. He's used we so many times, and that shows he's a Manchester United fan. And meanwhile, Arsenal also had to scrap a past 10-man Chelsea with Connor to stretch it. Now they're called the Set Piece FC. Well, a title that Mikel Arteta embraces, as so easily said, is finally getting the result. 16 goals Arsenal scored from corner kick, equaling the record of Oldham Football Club as well as West Bromwich Albion in that regard. In La Liga, it was Lamine Yamal getting first hat-trick and comfortable Barcelona win. And we're talking about Julian Alvarez giving Atletico lead win over Real Oviedo. And Lukaku's first goal of the season with last kick gives Napoli a win. A Harry Kane brace, a late Kimmich volley gave Bayern Munich a win in this one. But a big game will be taking place today. Would be Monday Night Football in La Liga taking place, and really I want to really talk about and see what the angles would be. Real Madrid chasing shadows with Timber David. In the last 10 years at the Santiago Bernabeu, this played on Monday 5 times, and in all of those games they've only won 2. Back to it, just briefly before we close with
I think it's just much pressure on Real Madrid now, because the victory for Barca now means Barca topping the league with 4 points. So if Real Madrid do not win today, it is very consequential to the ambition of winning the league title. Also having at the back of their minds that this is Champions League month. That's set to face Manchester City in the last 16.
And that's why they're going to Celta Vigo on Friday.
Whatever you do now,
trying to catch up the schedule.
So the momentum has to be high in favor of Real Madrid. I expect them to win.
The momentum has to be high in favor of Real Madrid. Without missing it, Alex Iwobi scoring a fantastic goal yesterday. Man of the match performance. Back-to-back goals for Alex Iwobi for Fulham in the English Premier League. A Pisa against Bologna today. Denise against Fiorentina in Serie A. We have to bounce. I think thank you guys for being a part of it. Kuswa, fantastic having you on your first day of the show. We know where you belong so easily. David, thank you for being a part of it, and big thanks to Mfon Itina in that regard. My name is Vladimir Kim, and we bounce. Thank you very much for being a part of it, and I say ciao, ciao.